Hi, my name is Gudrun from GE Designs. Welcome to my live quilting chat, Tipsy Tuesday. Hi, everybody. Welcome, everybody, whether you're watching us from Facebook or on YouTube. Thank you for being here. If you're new around here, make sure you introduce yourself and state your name in the comments along with where you're watching from. So also, if you're new here, we love to get those thumbs up and those hearts if you're watching on Facebook on a mobile device, or I think there's hearts and thumbs up on YouTube as well. But we love to get that. It gives us a little more feedback. On tonight's show, we will be continuing on with my matchmaking topic. We will tackle the third group out of the four, which is Scrappy with contrast. So that just means that we create contrast within each of the blocks to make the pattern stand out. So we can make contrast with a few different ways, and we're going to dive into that deep tonight. And of course, show you lots of color options and some fun, beautiful quilts. I will also be trying to answer most of your questions live. Of course, we have a lot coming in, so we will try our best to catch them all. And so if you have any questions on any topic, make sure you just post them in the comments, and we will see if we can pull them up and answer most of your questions. Now, if you're new here too and have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you do that. That kind of ensures that you will always see when we have new videos or when we go live. And if you're watching on Facebook, make sure to like our page, and you can also sign up for notifications, and then you will always be notified whenever we go live. And don't miss a thing, because you don't want to miss anything here. We have 2 giveaways every single show, every single Tuesdays. So 2 $25 gift card giveaways. So $50 up for grabs every show. 1 live winner is chosen every show, either from Facebook or YouTube, just a random generated comment, and that is from your comment. So the more you comment, the better your chances are to win. And then we do have a question at the end that everybody can answer, whether you're watching live or watching after the fact. So always a chance to win. And of course, last week we had a winner, and I asked you, our giveaway question was, what is your favorite quilt size to make? And our winner is Lori Mielke. Congratulations, Lori. You have won a $25 gift card. And of course, her answer was her favorite size are lap size or table runners. I'm kind of with you on that one. Those are probably my most common sizes to make. So all you got to do is answer that question in the end that we post in the end. And like I said, next week we will pull the winner from this show. All right. First off, before we dive into our topics, let's all get together and wish our lovely Mr. Honey producer a happy, happy birthday. Woohoo! And so, of course, there's only once a year that there's a birthday. So we broke all the rules. You know, normally we don't have cocktails on Tuesdays, even though it's Tipsy Tuesday. So we had to break the rule. And he got to choose the cocktail. So what did you choose?
The Blue Lagoon.
The Blue Lagoon. So I had to make Blue Lagoons. And so that is our sip of the night. Cheers.
Like almost gone.
Oh, see? I never have time to drink because I'm talking the whole time. But it is tasty. And if you're wondering, of course, he's got his snacks handy. Now this is almost empty too.
Oh, it is empty.
Ah! But of course, if you're wondering, we talked about last Friday about what kind of birthday cakes were going to be happening. And I made him both of his favorites. I made pumpkin bars this morning that we had a little bit after lunch, had a little gathering with our employees. And so everybody got a little pumpkin bar. And then I also made the strawberry cake, which we have on set. All right, so this is it. The strawberry shortcake cake. Now,
workout tomorrow. Big workout tomorrow. Big workout.
Big workout tomorrow? Really? Are you talking for yourself or? So we're going to have some cake tonight. That's our dinner. Yeah. Okay, there will be a workout tomorrow. Okay. But everybody, you were asking me about the recipe for this strawberry cake, and so I can't really give you the recipe, but because it's in a book. And so I just want to show you what book it is in. It is in one of Pioneer Woman's books, Food from My Frontier Woman. And then so this is on page, let me find it. There's a little story behind this cake. So I have to say, I'm not a baker. I'm much more of a cook, because then you don't really need to follow a recipe. You can kind of, cheat and throw in whatever. But this was quite a few years ago, and I had this thought of making this cake. I bought everything for it because it looked really good. I had heard somebody talking about it, and I decided to make this cake. Now, it was like a long weekend, and the kids were all supposed to be home. So that's why I was going to make it. And then all of a sudden the kids went to friends' cabins or something. So they were all gone. And I told him that I was going to make this cake, but since everybody's gone, I'm not going to make it. He's like, well, make it anyway. I'm like, well, okay. So I made the cake, and I thought, okay, I should just like cut it in half and deliver half of it to my neighbors or something. He said, well, just wait on that. Let's try it first. Well, that whole long weekend, we ate the whole thing. Just the two of us. That's how good it is. It's dangerous. But it's called the Strawberry Shortcake Cake, and it's on page 246 if you have this book. So check it out. I love cookbooks because I love to put notes in there whenever I make something from a recipe. I love to put notes in there, and I've actually just put the best in here. And I write the date when I made it and stuff like that. So it's really good. It's really worth it. So just check it out. Are you eating yours?
Yes.
I think, am I teasing you if I have just one bite? It's really hard to have just one bite, though. It's really, really hard. Oh, my gosh. Colby, don't touch this. Okay?
It's so good.
But it's been a really fun week, of course. Last Saturday, the first project in Fast and Furious Club Season 2 went live. And it's been amazing to see lots of runners already being posted and done. I think the first finished runner literally was up on Gudrun's Quilt Crew on Facebook. I want to say like 4 or 5 hours after I posted it. Maybe 6. But of course that was people that don't live in the same time zone as I do, because I posted it right around midnight. So very, very fun to see. Lots of different colorways, and everybody is saying what I told you. You cannot stop at one runner. You just it kind of calls you to make more. So that's just one of those things. So very excited. And of course on Friday, I'm going to show you a huge slideshow of a bunch of these runners. They're so fun to see them in all the different colors. So get ready for Friday. Don't miss that show. All right. Are we ready for some matchmaking? You want to do some matchmaking? All right, matchmaking made easy. So, of course, we're going to start with a little recap, because you never know if you're watching here for the first time. So this is our 4th show about this topic. In the first show, I did a little introduction on what I was doing with this. It's mainly to help you, give you some tips on matching your fabrics with your patterns and vice versa, and giving you some tips on Scrappy matchmaking. And so I group my patterns really into 4 categories. So first category is called Scrappy Goodness. Those are the ones that you can just throw anything in there pretty much, but I still gave you lots of tips on how to create balance. And then the second category is called Scrappy. No, this is not the second. The second one is Scrappy with accent. Oh, Scrappy with focus. Sorry. Scrappy with focus. That is the second one. And then the third one is Scrappy with contrast, which we're going to dive into today. And then next week, we'll check out the last category, which is Scrappy with background. All right, so diving into our Scrappy with contrast. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper in this. So what I really mean by that, we've talked about this word contrast. We've talked about value and all these different things. So most of the patterns in this category, they have two different fabrics in each block. And so the beauty and the magic of the pattern comes together when those two fabrics work together perfectly to create that contrast so they can really see the pattern come through. So the key is, of course, choosing the right fabrics, and you want them to stand out from each other so that you can actually see the design. So few ways to do that. A simple way, of course, is just to choose a constant background fabric. So something that is the second fabric in all of the blocks. So which means you have one background and then there's just one other color that comes in, and that's how easily you can create that contrast. So let me just show you this one here. This is my Nova pattern made with some cave fabrics and a single background. Now I did put Nova into this category because the original one I made is I did not use a single background contrast, because by doing that, we're really moving this pattern into the next category, which we're going to talk about next week, which is Scrappy with background. And so you could really do that with all of these patterns, which is easy and cool to do, but that's not what we're going to focus on tonight. We still want to use Scrappy fabrics for all the blocks, just like you can see in the Nova quilt I used for the pattern cover. So here's that one, just for a difference. You can see that each block has two different fabrics, and so they're not necessarily the same background continuing throughout. So much more scrappy, kind of much more going on, but you know, some people like that, some people don't, and you can create it your own way. I like the fun of it. I like the action that it creates, and kind of the spontaneity of the fun colors. So first off, the overall selection of fabrics is going to follow the same principles as the previous categories regarding the balance of the patterns, of the colors, and then of course of the values and the variety and the scale and geometric shapes and all of that. So the main focus is just selecting the two fabrics that you use for each block that's really the most important part. So a same thing applies. When going Scrappy, variety is good. The more different fabrics, the better. And it's easier that way. So the quilts I showed you in the August 25th episode, which was our introduction episode, that would fit into this category, they could all be done with pretty much all colors of the rainbow. They would all be great. They could also be done in a very controlled colorway, choosing only a few colors, or also even monochromatic, choosing just one color with different shades of that color. So just pairing them up as lights and darks. Now, as you read through the fabric requirements on many of these patterns, I will tell you in the fabric requirements, you need X amount of lights and X amount of darks. Now, that is just a term. You can kind of play with that term lights and darks. That really what it means is you want to create a contrast between the two. So it does not necessarily mean that you need to have light fabrics and dark fabrics. You can make the lights a different color. You can make them whatever you want. So don't take that always so literal, because, you know, there's no rules. Not in my world, not in my quilting world. Now, all of these patterns that we're going to talk about in this category are made like with two fabrics in the block. That doesn't mean that you can maybe swap in and have maybe 2 or 3 colors within a block, make it even more scrappier, but it still kind of needs to follow the same principles. The same, you still want to create that contrast within the block. So the process will be the same. So first process, of course, you want to lay out all of your colors that you're going to use for the colorful part or the scrappy part, or even if you have just one set of colors, one set of fabrics that you want to use, like maybe one just a layer cake or a charm pack. So lay them all out and group them and try and figure out some kind of like a balance between the colors. So, and then you're going to start pairing up. So I want to show you this one quilt before I show you actual fabric. So this is my Helena pattern, which fits very well into this category. Let's look at, this is the one on the cover. So I used multiple different backgrounds. So you might not see it because they're all kind of or so they're all lights. And then I used a few different colors for the darker colors. Now they are all scrappy, so that you see they do have some life because some of these lights have some print in them. And then I want to show you this other Helena quilt that I made. So this was kind of my prototype quilt. And this one just came out of my bins, my 10-inch square bins. So all from my stash, I just pulled out, and I wanted just to use two colors, so red and black, and then all my lights. And you can also see in the lights, there's a huge difference. Like some of them are creamier, and some of them are whiter, and some have a print to them, and others don't. And check out the window. Do you see the window next to the quilt? Yeah, this is Kobe. He's never too far away when I'm anywhere taking photos. So that was just hilarious that his face was in the window. He's not inside the shed, as it may seem. Anyway, so I kind of wanted to do a similar thing that I did when I pulled fabrics for that Helena quilt. So I just pulled out some from my bins, some light squares, 10-inch squares, and then some reds and some blacks. And I'm just going to talk about them a little bit. So I have arranged them here. I'll pull my ruler from underneath. These rulers are great as little trays to carry things. So I have all my colors and I have all my lights. So I have obviously a variety and from different fabric lines. And so when I am working on pairing what I would put together, you'll see that I have some prints that have red in them and then others that have black. And so then I have some geometric, I have some directional shapes, I have just tossed shapes, and then I have some tone-on-tones that kind of calm things down. You can also see I have various shades of red, and then kind of various shades of black, grayish, and some have quite a bit of light in them. And so here's some little tricks when I'm pairing up what I'm going to use with what, based on just this selection. So first off, you'll see most of them are kind of have a pattern to them. Not many are just a solid color. But when I start pairing up, I kind of look for those that are kind of more quiet, like this one. And that's the one I'm going to pair with the most noisy print, like this one. So this one paired up with this one would be very good. Either that, or I would pair it with something that has red in it, because that is definitely going to stand out. You can check that out too. So that would work very well too, because if this was black, it would kind of start fighting with all the action in here. But this is better that way. And for the same reason, I don't want to pair something with a red with something that's red here. For example, when I have something that has red and white in it, when mixed with something that has red and white, then it could sometimes muddle the line between the two. So it would be better to pair this with something that has black in it. Another thing that I also try and do is look at the scale of the prints. So for example, this is a really large scale print. So paired with this one, I want to do something that's either very quiet, because this is quite loud, either very quiet and small scale, or even something that's directional. So I could do something with a stripe. Of course, this gives contrast right away, but I probably would go something like this, because this is a very small scale. And now I have a red that is a totally different color that would stand out from the light background and those big blocks of black. Does that make sense? And so that's kind of my thinking when I start pairing up, is that I take the shape. So I would not try not to pair I would not pair this one with something that's very similar in shape and size. I would try and go something totally opposite. So probably something like this and that, because it's a totally different direction and shape that will kind of play with your eye. So that's kind of my thought on pairing things together. When you have something that is kind of muddles the line between being a super light, because it has a very small print. As you can see, it has both red and black in it. In this one, I want to pair it with something that's really sharp, really high contrast. Either would be something like this that's almost reads a solid, so like a tone on tone, so you can totally read it. or even a black. So I would probably go something that's a little bigger scale if I wanted to do a print with it. And there you go. So you kind of get the gist of that. And don't be afraid with mixing these hues of something that's white, something that's cream. I like mixing it because it gives a little bit of shade difference and kind of action into your scrappy quilts. But if you wanted it to be more subtle, you could also just use all of the whiter ones and that, or all of the creamy ones. So just whatever kind of look you want to play with. But this would make a really fun, very similar to my Helena quilt that I did with the red and black. So moving on from that, so if you want to do something that needs a couple other patterns that needs kind of a harsh contrast to really see the pattern come out, Stella is another one, very simple quilt. And in this one I used multiple colors, but all of my lights were kind of on the same level so that I could really see those stars come out on both on the dark and on the light background, so that you really see each one. Each pattern is not too large scale, not too busy, so that it doesn't really muddle that line between a light and a dark. Another one is Roxanne. This version I made with very similar background or very similar lights, and then all kinds of multicolored fabrics. Some are not that dark. So for example, that light lime green, I love it when it kind of falls almost in the background, and it's just kind of fun to see all the blocks come together and see which ones stand out. And I'll show you different versions of that one. So it's just using a variety of lights matched up with multiple colors. And like I said, it's just more fun having a variety of light colors. But that's a really easy way to create that contrast if you want to really have that sharp contrast. So another way to use lights and darks, if you don't necessarily have the exact same number of lights and darks in the fabrics that you have. So let's, for example, say you want to make a Kira quilt, and you have this set of squares or layer cake or whatever, and there's just an X amount of lights, but there's more of the other colors. So what do? So in this case, in my Kira quilt, for example, I chose the yellow to be also both in the light version and in the darks. So I just kind of saw how many lights I had, saw how many darks, which was my grays and blacks, and then that yellow, by splitting it up and putting some of them in the light pile and some of them in the dark pile, that's when I had an even number. And I love playing with that line, because then when you lay out the blocks, lights and darks, it's not so kind of structured. It kind of blurs the line, and you can kind of scatter that yellow all over the place. And kind of that's what I did with Akira. So I'm going to show you an example of that, how to do that. So I have this charm pack here of the Solana fabric line, and just to give you an example, lots of colors in this line. I've kind of sorted them by the colors. So I put all the kind of the light ones in this stack, and then we have all the yellows in this stack. We have oranges into this kind of lighter pink here. We have the blues. And then we have lots of greens. So the greens are kind of the majority. And it's basically because this print, it reads very green, even though one I think was supposed to be more blue, but they read the same. So they kind of read green. So when I'm figuring this kind of thing out, what I try and do, obviously, the lights that are purely lights are, just a small portion of all the colors. So I try to take my lights, and then I pick some colors that are not that many of, and I consider another thing. So what other color is kind of dominant? So the greens, obviously there's a lot of green, and plus there's green in all of here. So I kind of let the green be in a category themselves. So they are kind of going to be the base of my darks. And then which colors are going to contrast the green the most? And actually, that's probably going to be my pinks and yellows. They're going to contrast this very well. So I'm going to move these guys over even possibly just a few of them, and then maybe my yellows, because yellow is a great contrast with all the blues. And so maybe I'll keep just a few of these. Just I would have to do my count and count these and then count these. So I stick with all of my greens on this side, even though some of you might think this is pretty light green. Why wouldn't you use that as your light? But I probably would just stick them over here, because then you always have a contrast with that light, with that green. So whether it's using yellow for that contrast, or a pink, or even some of the lights, it's always going to give you that contrast. So just play with that, and then it's all about when you start pairing up which two will go together in a block. So then you got to think about two different colors, yes, but also maybe something that's really large scale and print. Put that with something that's reads more like a solid, like a tone on tone, and then you always have contrast within each block. Putting this print with another print, of course, that is busy, that's not going to work, because you're not going to see the contrast between these two. But it's easy to use these large scale prints, just as long as you pair it with something that will easily cut it up and show that difference. All right, does that make sense? Another quilt that I did is my Venus quilt, that I kind of played with that line too, is because most of the colors were just kind of going from that light into a soft gray, into a lavender, into a darker blues. And then there was just this kind of taupey sandy color that I kind of played with, putting him sometimes with darks and sometimes with that lavender. And so it kind of doesn't really take a role of either a light or a dark. So what if you wanted to use just a multitude of color, just all kinds of colors, and not really like some lights or some darks? And that is totally, possible. So none of the colors could be categorized as a light and a dark. So you can easily create the contrast within the blocks just by putting two different colors together. So I have another set of fabric here, which I kind of didn't, they are all kind of on the same. This is also from one fabric line, but that could be pulled from anywhere. So this is this is a fabric line that is coming later this year. I think it's called Folklore. So you haven't seen it yet, but it has these very distinct color families. And so this, you could easily create contrast by just pairing the two colors that work together well. So for example, you take that mustard and you put it with that red, and there's a contrast just by choosing two different colors together. Same thing, this could be done with a green, or even this is a light and a dark, or you could put it with a blue and it would work. So that is very easy to do, just choosing two different colors. Now another thing that I always consider when I'm doing that, if I'm pairing things up, and that can just help create that contrast, just more so than just two colors, because look at this, you can put two colors together and these two create contrast. But it's not very interesting because it's the same print. What can really enhance that contrast is choosing a print that is small scale, and put that with a large scale print, and then you see even more of a contrast. Or put a directional print with a tossed print, and then you'll see more of that contrast. So think about that also, not just pairing two colors together, because pairing two colors together, you would think that this blue and this brown would create contrast, but when you lay them together, you'll see there's a lot of white and a lot of white here. They're the same scale, so they are going to run together. Especially if you were to take a photo of these and turning into black and white, they would really run together. But just changing the scale of the print, very similar colors, changes everything. All right, does that make sense? So let's check out some quilts that use just two different colors in a block. So there we have Katie. This is Katie, and done with 10-inch squares, and just pair two fabrics together that create the contrast. And this version, I just did two different colors. Some of the prints, as you can see, very large scale and wild, and I try to pair that with a more quiet print. So a tone on tone or a smaller scale, something like that. So it kind of enhances that even more, and you can really see the pattern. Here's another version of Katie that I made with a more controlled colorway, but same principle applies, is trying not only to choose two different colors or two different, very hues of the same color that give that good contrast, but also thinking about which two patterns I'm putting together, bringing together a large and a small and so on. Then we have Emma. Emma is a quilt where you can put as many colors or as few colors as you want. You just want to pair two together in a block that create that contrast, so you can really see that little thin line going through each block. And so this one is a very controlled colorway. Some prints are very large scale, so then I made sure to pair that with something small scale. And then here's another version of Emma that one of our friends in the crew made using Tula Pink fabrics. And of course, when you do multiple colors, that is even easier. You just pair two different colors together, and did a great job in that. And then also pairing some of those wilder prints that have more going on with something more subtle. And then we have one more here in this category I want to call Locust. Again, you can use as many colors as you want. You don't have to do lights and darks. And just as long as the two have that contrast between them, and then you're good to go. This one is such a fun, fast, really quick quilt to make. Doesn't really matter what you do with it, and super quick. All right, so we're going to move on to the next sample. I wanted to just show you some fabrics that are, maybe you have want fabrics that are not as vibrant. So I wanted to show you, we skipped one that I wanted to show you in talking about the colors, and when you had all the same colors but you needed to kind of pair either different colors, or thinking about that scale and the style of print. So here is the I was going to show you the Kira. Did we not have that one? Oh, the Kira by, oh, we're going to show that later. I'm skipping. Sorry. I'm skipping. Yeah. So, and even I wanted to show you one more thing. So talking about the same thing, if you have a fabric line that has just kind of a certain amount of colors in them, and then you're pairing things up, and that example is actually hanging right behind me, my Prisms quilt. So this fabric that I wanted to use for this, you use two different prints in a block. And when you pair them together, let's put the photo of the quilt up on the screen. That's the one with the horse. This is my horse quilt. And this one, so if you kind of look at the blocks closely, there were some larger prints, larger scale prints, and then there were some smaller scale, and then some calm ones. So I did try and pair, every time I used a larger scale print, I paired it with something that was more quiet. So that makes that one successful, and kind of makes that contrast even more, because you want all that work on those triangles, you want them to really show up. So along with color, which is a way to create contrast, along with color, you can also use values to create contrast. So for example, let's say you want to make a quilt all monochromatic, and you can still create great contrast within those. And that's where you can use value. So this one is critical. And I just pulled out the same fabrics I showed you, I think, in the first show, because they were already kind of here. And these are the blues, and I showed you kind of when I was choosing blues and how I would kind of mix things up and try to have variety. So if this was going to be my pull for a monochromatic quilt, and it was going to be one of those where I have to pair them up, and when I would start to pair these up, most people would probably split them in half and do the lights here and the darks here and start pairing up the lightest with the darkest. But I would probably not do that. Yes, I would probably split them in half, kind of like this, but then I would put the lightest with kind of the middle values and not necessarily the darkest. So I would just kind of also start playing with like something that's kind of busy. I would put that with something calm, right? Something that's directional. I do not want to put that with another directional. I want to put that with something that is a different type of a print. So that's how kind of I would pair things together. So once I would be done with pairing things together that way, I would lay out all my pairings. So I have this photo, the blues, when I have them all paired up. So let's look at the blues paired. So there I have all my blues paired up. And as you can see from the eye, looking at all these pairings, they are very, very nicely paired up. And each one has great contrast. But this is what I also do when I'm doing something like this. I check the value by putting it in black and white. And am I creating enough contrast with just that, looking at the value, because then you can really see those fabrics that have a lot of that light in them. Are they still creating that contrast? And I think that was a good pick. And I would be happy with that and going forward with that. So a couple of other, here's some quilts that are the Nina quilt. This one can be put together. You just need a bit of a contrast between the blocks, the two fabrics that are in the blocks, which is made with strip sets. And so this one, you kind of blur the lines. So sometimes the light blue is the dark, sometimes the light blue is the light, and so on. And I love playing with that. Same thing with the supersized one. The gray, sometimes it's a dark, sometimes it's a light, and so on. So those two are great for that. A little more tips on the larger scale prints. So I wanted to show you this Kira that I talked about earlier that Leslie did with really large scale prints, all wild prints. I think they're mostly K-facet prints. And see how she's still able to create that great contrast just by color. And then also thinking about when there is a polka dot print, to put something that's totally different from the polka dot print with that, so that they can each stand out. So don't be afraid to use all color, and you'll still be able to create great contrast within it. The other version I wanted to show you is my Venus that I did with the Tim Holtz fabrics, the abandoned fabric line that we have coming next month, hopefully by the end of the month or November. And so in this case, many of the prints are pretty large scale, so I threw in some of his provisions, some of his basics, to kind of calm them down. So I paired up, if it was a really busy, colorful print, I paired that with maybe a calmer one. Or if there was two prints, I made sure that they were a different type or a different scale. And also, of course, try to do a different color so they would stand out better. But that just creates a whole different look, these types of prints. So you can kind of also try and figure out why you like this one and why you like that one, or why you don't like this one, and if you like more of a contrast and whatnot. So it's just really fun to play with that line of trying different things. So if you wanted a little more inspiration, which I think you all love, I have just pulled some more quilts from the crew from our Facebook group, and from those same patterns that I've talked about today. So just some more colorful options and things to think about. So this one is Bonnie's Nova. Really great because not necessarily all light fabric. So using kind of breaking that norm with lights and darks, and really makes for a really colorful quilt. It's like fireworks. And here's another one by Gwen, another Nova, which throwing in some pinks with the lights just gives it that extra kind of zing and fun. And then we have Pam's Nova, which is more rich, so lots and lots of blues, but pairing using those values is really creating that pattern and makes it come out in a totally different way, very subtly, but very effective. Here is Karen's Helena quilt. Beautiful. Love seeing all those colors in there because they're different from my version. And this one is Lenore's. Also done very differently. Monochromatic. Just that little beige in there to kind of liven it up even more. Just love that. And then we have Stella. This is Kathy's Stella. great contrast, but look at that. All those lights are all different, so that what makes it really fun. And then we have Vicky's, and she used all red, so kind of monochromatic. Still, you're able to see all the contrasting blocks, so great job on that. That's more fun and vibrant. And then we have a very high contrast with just red, white, and blue, but still using a little bit of variety in those light fabrics. I think that always just gives it a little more dimension if you want things to be scrappy. Here we have Shane's Roxanne, and there you can see multiple different fabrics come together, not always a light and a dark, but mixing that up, and how fun is that? Totally different look. And here is that Carmela's Roxanne quilt? Yep. This is great as well, not just all a light background. And here we have Joy's Kira. I love this one because it was just so fun with the polka dots and the stripes. So, but she paired it up opposite. So a solid with a polka dot, and how fun is that? It just looks really fun for a kid's quilt. This is Kim's Venus. So more controlled, kind of blocking them together, the colors, but very effective this way. Gives it so much life. And then this is Pam's Venus. A totally different colorway, more subtle, almost monochromatic in those blues, but just a little taupes in there too. Beautiful job. Tracy's, this is Katie, Tracy's Katie. Awesome, very controlled colorway, just navies, grays, and greens. Very nice job. And this is Candace's Emma quilt. Also, just lots of colors, lots of fun prints, large scale, small scale, great pairing. And I just had to choose this one when I was looking for locust quilts. This is Jill's, and just the adorable baby was just too much. Love the version with the more controlled colorway. And can you tell that I'm a little baby sick right now? I have not seen my little guy for too long. And then this is Connie's Prisms. Beautiful job, and lots of prints there, but she did a great job pairing them up. And then we have Melinda's Nina quilt. Lots more color than the ones I showed you, so you can do this any which way you want. All kinds of, use as many colors as you want, or of course as few. So that is it for our little quilt show tonight, and I'm ready to answer your questions if you got them. Whew, that was a lot going back. Huh? Do we have questions? Lots of love on these quilts. That's great. Thank you for that. And thank you everybody that posts photos of their quilts. Glenna says her family likes the monochromatic, but she loves brights. Hey, you can do both. Make one for them and then 3 for you. Love the Stella pattern, goes together in a hurry. Yeah, so Stella is available in my Stripology Mixology book. So that's great. Now, any specific questions on those pairings? But now you kind of get the difference between Scrappy with focus or Scrappy with contrast. So it's just really the contrast within each block that you create that really makes this pattern stand out. All right, so lots of comments on how great this is, loving the inspiration, great examples. Kira is a single pattern. And so for many of you that have had this question so many times on, if some of my single patterns are in a book or vice versa. And so you can rest assured because I never double up. So if a pattern is a single pattern, it is not in a book. At least not in a book that is in print. So the only times where it may have been I take something that is in a book. If the book is out of print and discontinued, then I sometimes republish it as a single pattern, but never both at the same time. All right, what is the minimum number of colors should you use in a Scrappy quilt? Now that's always, very questionable, and I always say more the merrier, but I'm at minimum when I'm working. I usually say 10 to 12. 12 is a really great number if you're making larger quilts. Maybe if you're making smaller quilts than like a crib size, maybe you can get away with less. But this is kind of the reason why I usually put 12 different fabrics in my bundles, my stash builder bundles, because it actually gives you a great base for making a scrappy quilt, and they will all kind of work together. So Rosemary says, this is great. I often passed on a pattern because the photo wasn't my style. Heard this so many times too. After seeing so many of your quilts and so many color choices has opened up a new world. Yeah, so it takes a while for you to kind of really just see the pattern and think of it in a totally different color way. So many folks are just stuck with a style or a look, and so my patterns are all just geometric patterns, so you can put them in any color and any style fabric, and they're all great and just unique on their own. They all create their own uniqueness that way. When is the batting coming in? We're sitting here waiting. Last we heard was around October 1st. So just know if you placed an pre-order for the batting or the pre-orders for the starter kits, we will be shipping them out as soon as it lands. Brenda says, any news on the Santa hats kits? Yes, we listed them today. If you signed up for notification, you must have gotten a notification today, because that did not take very long for 100 kits to sell out. But we might have just a handful more. I cleaned out that gray grunge out of Moda. I cleaned them out. So unfortunately, we'll not be able to get any more unless they get in another printing, which we still got time because that project doesn't go live until November. So if we are able to get more of that grunge, we will put together more kits for you. We'll keep putting them more and more together. So make sure if you want to be notified when some of these things come up, if we're able to get more, just go to the website, click on that listing, and there's a box there to put your email in, and you will get an email once it's relisted. Kathy says, when you show us a new bundle, could you show us the possible combinations on putting pairing up the fabrics? Yeah, that would be easy to do. But I always, as I've tried to explain before, when I'm picking the fabrics that go into a bundle, usually between, I would say, 12 to 15 fabrics are in a bundle. And most times the fabric lines are a lot bigger than that. So I try and pick and balance out my bundles for you already. So they're already balanced, and especially with color. Or sometimes I leave out the lights so that you can then add your own lights or add your own background, add your accent fabric, things like that. So I try to kind of stay controlled. Is there any kind of index that reaches what a book a pattern is in, or a list? You know what? We had a crew member start to put together this list, and I just haven't had time to dive into it, but I want to really create a list of all of the patterns, where they can be found, and also what kind of, if they use fat quarters, 10-inch squares, 2.5-inch strips, or yardage. So we're working on that list, and we will have just probably a PDF that you could just download from the website with all that information. So I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be ready in the next week or so, because it's not going to be that, but possibly in a few weeks. I am in the middle of book writing, so we have to wait. Kathy says, I love your videos. Thanks to Mr. Honey for helping.
Welcome.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Mr. Honey. It's good to have a drink. I'm thirsty. And now, is your drink all gone?
Sorry, my mouth is full of cake.
Oh, his mouth is full of cake. I can't talk. Do we have any more questions on anything? Great show. Thank you. Will you sell Fall Fellows as just a pattern? Yeah, so it will be. So that one doesn't go live until October 20th. So then you can purchase just the pattern and the video class on its own. Right now, because only the off kilter is live, that's the only one you can buy individually right now. But once the pattern goes live, October 20th, then you'll be able to do the Fall Fellows like that as well. Big are the strips? I don't. I don't remember exactly. So they're made from fat quarters. So they're big. The blocks are this big. So, why are some patterns PDFs and other not? So most of all of my newer ones are both. It's just some of my older patterns are not PDFs just because the files weren't transferable, and I just haven't had the time to generate new files to make them PDFs, but it's on my list of things to do. Could you do a cutting video on the Katie quilt? Cutting video. I don't know if it's really great for a video, but I would do a video for every single pattern if I had endless time. And if there were maybe 20 days in the week, that would be great. Or 30 hours in the day, that'd be great. Well, Amelie is a PDF already, Diane. So Amelie is available both as a single printed and a PDF. All right, Loretta says, I learned to stand back and squint at the layout to analyze contrast. It works very well. Oh, yeah, squinting is great. Also, take a photo with your phone because seeing it on a smaller scale is very different than looking at it with your bare eyes. The book is good, coming along good. We did actually our first round of photo shoots on, was that yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. Got some great shots, but still have to do the second round. And so that'll be coming up towards the end of the month. Pat is asking on the colors with the green, yellow, pink, blue, you placed a green on the lights. Why did it not go in the green pile? There was a lot of white in there, so you could move it into the green pile, absolutely, and it's something I may have done. But there was a lot of white in there, so that's why I put it there. But that's something that's totally interchangeable. Yes. How much exactly is a fat eighth? So a fat quarter is a quarter yard, same amount as a quarter yard, but it's not the full width of fabric. It's a half width of fabric and 18 inches. So it's a half yard, but only half width. So it's about 18 by 21. So fat eighth, an eighth yard of fabric is like 4.5 inches by full width. So it's double that, 9 inches, but only half width. So it's usually 9 by 21 or so. The abandoned fabric in the Nova quilt. Oh, okay, no. In the Nova quilt pattern is the most gorgeous quilt. Oh, that was a Venus. So I used that. It was the Venus pattern. And when will this fabric be available? So we have, they're saying the ship date is October, November. We don't know. Hoping it'll be no later than November. But we have it up as a pre-order. So if you want to secure a bundle. And so then as we have added inventory or added to our order, some of that is coming later and later. But hopefully we'll get our first shipment around October, November. We're seeing that most fabric, the estimated ship dates, they're at least a month behind. And that is just because of everything. High volume of shipments in everywhere. Everybody's experiencing high volume because everybody's home. Everybody's shipping everything and ordering online. And then, of course, everything is just being backed up from being printed overseas. So we're seeing between, I would say, 3 to 8 weeks sometimes difference between when we were supposed to get it and then when it actually comes. Jean says, are you going to get the black pumpkin back in? I will be talking about that in just a little bit. Actually, I'll talk about it right now. So thank you all for all those questions. Keep throwing them out there. And if you have any more questions on the Scrappy with contrast, we will do that. But we did make some more black pumpkin kits. Got them packaged up today. And we listed about half of them today because they were using very similar colors than as this sample, except for the stripe. I couldn't find any diagonal stripe for use for binding, so we just used kind of a nice gray for that. So that was with a very similar background. So that we listed it like at 5 o'clock, and it was sold out very fast. So we have another batch, but I wanted to just show you all before we put them online because it's going to have a different type of background. We can just show this in the overhead so you can see it. So we'll have mostly the same fabrics in the pumpkins here. Very similar. The binding will be this gray grunge, and so the stems will be too. And then this will be your background. So this is, I felt like it had kind of a same feel as this. It does not have script on it, but it's that Provisions from Tim Holtz with that kind of ink blot, so that same grungy feel. And we were able to have get quite a few kits of this, but I just want to warn you, if you purchase this one, you will get a 1/4 yard, but it is cut on the fold, but you will still have plenty of ways to use it. It was just what we were able to get and use. I'm trying to get you as many kits as possible, and that's what we're going to use. So we're going to put these live in the store right now so that you can secure this. And I apologize already because we just weren't able to get any more fabric, but we are able to have a few more of these kits if you are interested, just with that little bit of a difference. So that is alive in the store right now. And then I wanted to show you, because Moda is so kind to me, they send me fabrics, actual fabrics of lines, sample yardage that are coming later. So I have 3 lines that I got today, actually actual fabric hands-on, that we have on pre-order. And so you've only seen the little boxes, like the digital images, but it's always different to see the actual fabric. So I wanted to show you these 3 lines that are already available as pre-orders, but in the actual fabrics. And this one is actually going to be coming really soon. This is Daybreak by 3 Sisters. I've always loved the 3 Sisters artwork. So really traditional, but I loved this colorway of this deep navy, and just loved these birds with that little bit of gold in them. And so this bundle is, I kind of chose the dark navy and then sprinkled in that in those grays, so I chose some grays with it. So that same bird print in the gray, and so just beautiful, really soft colors, but still that pops of that red. So, and beautiful paisleys if you like paisleys, and then this kind of robin's egg blue in there too. Some paisleys, and then this bundle I could not narrow it down to balance it out because I really wanted some gold in there to really kind of tie it all together. So I added 3 golds. So there are 3 gold fabrics. So this one has 14 different prints, just because I just had to balance it out with those golds. So this is the Daybreak fabric, and should be shipping here in a week or 2, I believe. And so we should have it in stock early October. I'm hoping. Everybody cross your fingers. And then the other one I got was the Rise fabric line. This is by Ruby Star Society. And so this is a 13-piece bundle. I only have the big prints. There's also 4 basic prints in this bundle, but I just got the big prints. So they have metallic gold in them, just beautiful large scale modern prints, and these are by Melody Miller, and I just love these pinks with that kind of a different type of pairing, by pairing that cinnamon color and that kind of curry color with it. Now there are some snakes in here. I know maybe snakes are not everybody's favorite. My daughter would love it because she has a snake that, by the way, stays in Florida, does not come here ever. But I think it's cute though. All right, so here's the blues in here. I just think this is such a unique colorway with that Kelly green in there as well. These are, because they have like, these are cute. Not real snakes, no. No, thank you. but these are cute. I mean, they have like patterns on them. I mean, I guess snakes have patterns on them, but not gold shiny. And these have a little bit of rose gold in it. So it's both gold and rose gold in here. So this is Rise, and then there are 4 basics in here. One of their basics, which is kind of that red color, a pink, and then a light, and one of the blues. So this one is Rise. So it'll make an awesome Clarissa, showing off these big prints. All right, so then the other one that we got is the Moody Bloom by Create Joy Project. If you remember when we did the Hope Quilt Along, we had her first line with Moda, the Brightly Blooming, and I made my quilt using that line. So it's the same thing. Really beautiful artwork, big florals in the black, and this line has more coordinates, so I really like that. Love this print. And then we have the big floral in the light colorway, and then some great coordinates. These are really fun, kind of directional but not. And then we have one more colorway of the big print, so it's the light with the blues and greens. And so I tried to kind of balance it out with all of those 3 and some of the blue coordinates. So they all work you can mingle them all, put them all together, or pull one out, because the blue goes with the black, and the pink goes with the black, the blue goes with this one. They all work together. So they're really fun. I can't wait to play with this and see what I come up with using these beautiful, beautiful florals. So again, these are already on our website as pre-orders, but it's just different seeing them in actual fabric, isn't it? It's always better. It's always so much better. My daughter goes to Eckerd College in Florida, and she took her first, they split them all up, so they're doing 3 sets of classes. So first bracket was done, and only the freshmen got to go on campus now, and she's been doing hers remotely here at home, and now she gets to go. All the sophomores get to go, and she's leaving Thursday, and take the second bracket, and then end of October the juniors and seniors get to go and do the last part of the semester. So they've kind of broken it up, which is great because they're not having any issues at her school. Lots of outdoor classes and stuff, so it's great. All right, how do you decide what pattern to use with all the fabric choices? Love the fabrics but have difficulty knowing how to use it. That's sometimes the fabrics just speak to me. Sometimes I just lay the fabrics out, flip through the books or the patterns, lay them next to them, and then they'll start talking to you. Of course, there's patterns that will kind of work better for big prints versus small prints. I would try and base it off of that. Bigger pieces, obviously, for bigger prints. I probably wouldn't choose something like supersized Nina for small prints. But I just kind of play with it. Sometimes it just happens, and I have to create a new one for it. Jennifer says, are you getting more provisions? We couldn't get all the colors that we wanted to, but we have it on order. They are reprinting it, and that's something they're going to keep reprinting. So they are reprinting it, and we will be getting the next batch. Lots more of that. So we will try and keep that in stock constantly, especially with other Tim Holtz lines coming in. You could always use them and intermix with all of his lines, which is really great. But that is all the fabrics I can show you today. We have our next show coming up next week, and that'll be our last little grouping of matchmaking, our finale of the matchmaking, which will be the September 29th at 7 p.m. Central. And then, of course, this coming Friday, I will be live on Facebook and Gudrun's Quilt Crew. But before we kick off with a final question, do we have a live winner ready to roll? Who is our live winner? Thank you all for being live with us. Maureen O'Croy. Congratulations, Maureen. You have won a $25 gift card. Now, I'm sure you're watching, so either send me a message via Facebook or send me an email, and we will make sure to get that gift card to you virtually so you can go shopping really fast. Now, I won't be answering emails tonight, just to show you. Oh, yeah, we wanted to celebrate all the new stripologists. Lots of rulers going out this week. So all of you new stripologists, welcome to the club, everybody who's a stripologist. Your quilting life has now been changed forever. All right, so we ready for our giveaway question? Yes. Okay, so this was a fun one. I let Honey Producer pick his question. So the giveaway question is, all you have to do is answer this in the comments. What would be your birthday meal? And I decided to throw a little extra on it. So I want to know what would be the actual food. What would you be drinking with it? And then who would be your company? Now, you answer this first. What would be your birthday meal? Those three things.
Oh, that's difficult.
Difficult?
Probably the grits with veggies and veggie sausage, or the pasta with red sauce.
Oh, my pasta with red sauce and vegan Italian sausage.
Special.
Mushrooms, red sauce, pasta, and a really good garlic bread, I'm assuming.
Of course.
And a glass of wine.
Yes, glass of wine.
Glass of wine sounds good. Yeah. Oh, and just me? Am I the only one? Only guest?
You're the only guest.
Oh, how
Kobe
sweet.
would probably come just because.
Kobe would be there trying to eat the crumbs. For me, it would be like, if I get to choose the perfect scenario, it would be like the perfect pre-dinner drink, which would probably be a good martini. And then my main meal would probably include Icelandic lobster, but lots of great veggies, like roasted vegetables, good salad, some potatoes. Oh, you trying to say hi to everybody?
He's trying to tell his favorite meal.
Is your favorite meal? You agree? And then, of course, good wine with the meal. And then, yeah, my company would also be you, honey. Possibly some other great friends that I don't ever get to see. But yeah, we're pretty similar on that. Now, dessert. Dessert? Strawberry cake?
Strawberry cake for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
I am ready with mine. That could be mine too. But I would also just settle for a good chocolate martini.
Oh.
Since we're talking, it's my birthday.
I want to play my special dance.
Oh,
The old man dance.
this is the old man dance. This was his birthday TikTok. Can they hear the music?
No.
Oh.
You don't want to get shut down.
Oh, we don't want to play the music because
That's the birthday dance.
that's a birthday dance. Yes, everybody, that's his birthday. Special day. We're going to go finish our drinks. Well, might have to make you another one. And then I'm going to finish my cake. Happy birthday. And I will see you all. We will see you all this coming Friday with a great slideshow of all of the off-kilter table runners from Fast and Furious Club. And then, of course, next Tuesday, we'll be finishing off our matchmaking. And after that, you'll be master matchmakers. That's it for us. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you next time.